Tonight on NewsWatch, day 2 of being closed. A look at how the partial federal shutdown is affecting Americans.
Plus, Pope Francis pushed to reform Catholics, what he says needs to be the focus of the church.
And we take a look at a revolutionary way to treat cancer without surgery or side effects. All this and more tonight on NewsWatch. Good evening. I'm Mark Martin.
And I'm Wendy Griffith. The United States government is in day 2 of its first shutdown in 17 years. Some 800,000 workers have been told not to come in. Across the country, many are bracing for a prolonged government siege. George Thomas has tonight's top story.
From California's famed Yosemite National Park.
It was a long journey. We came all the way here. It took us 16 hours to fly.
To all the other 401 national parks, monuments, and popular destinations coast to coast.
I think it's crazy.
The political mess in Washington has government employees.
They just told us until further notice, you're furloughed, and when we call you, come on back in.
And tourists alike worried that a shutdown could now last weeks.
We're not getting to tour the Capitol building, we're not getting to tour the Pentagon, we're not getting to go to the Holocaust Museum.
One market research firm says it's costing $13 million an hour, roughly $1.6 billion a week in lost economic output because of the shutdown.
I think they should fire all these clowns that are supposed to be representing the people, but they're doing a bad job of it.
The siege has forced the president to cancel 2 stops on his upcoming trip to Asia, with the possibility the entire trip could get canceled. There was talk of a compromise, with Republicans agreeing to reopen parts of the government.
The Senate has to do something. They've got to compromise with somebody and quit simply saying no.
Democrats said no thanks, agreeing to fund the government only if the GOP drop its effort to defund or delay Obamacare.
We have to stop playing these foolish games that keep coming to us from the other side of the Capitol.
Late this evening, President Obama invited top congressional leaders from both parties to the White House for a meeting on the impasse.
Today's meeting is about the need to open the government and the need to ensure that we do not default.
Meanwhile, some Republicans are starting to break ranks and calling for legislation to fund the government with no conditions. George Thomas, CBN News.
Some in Washington are calling the current situation unprecedented, but in reality, there's a long history of government shutdowns. This is the 12th since 1981. The most recent in 1995 when Bill Clinton was president. That shutdown lasted 21 days. One thing the country has learned from past shutdowns, the longer it lasts, the longer it costs.
Well, as some look to lay blame for the shutdown, one name keeps coming up, and that is Senator Ted Cruz. For more on that, we turn now to our chief political correspondent, David Brody. David, Ted Cruz has clearly been vocal about using the budget battle to defund Obamacare, and many say his outspokenness was a big factor in no deal being reached. Is that a fair assessment?
No, I don't think it is a fair assessment at all, Wendy. Look, Ted Cruz is outspoken. Newsflash to America. He's been doing that for a while, ever since he came onto the national political scene. Harry Reid did not want a deal. Speaker John Boehner wanted a deal, and Ted Cruz really had nothing to do with it. Look, he got some media attention because of that 21-hour filibuster that wasn't a filibuster. But the truth be known, Ted Cruz said he was going to do this all along, and whether or not he didn't talk or did talk or came out with talking points really made not much of a difference at all.
Well, David, on Monday, Cruz suggested the House try to pass small spending bills to fund parts of the government. And then on Tuesday night, they tried and failed. Does the fact that they went that route reflect Cruz's influence, not just in the Senate, but also in the House?
Well, I don't think there's any question that Ted Cruz is having an influence on this debate, but Ted Cruz's influence really is more in public opinion. In other words, he was the one that really got this on the front pages of the Washington Post and some other of these mainstream media outlets. I don't mean the front pages in terms of a government shutdown. I'm talking about Obamacare and the dangers of it. That was the effect of the filibuster, or the so-called filibuster. But all of these bills that are coming through now, piecemeal, funding a park, the national parks here and there. No, look, the Speaker of the House, John Boehner, is not taking his cues from Ted Cruz. He will say that privately as well as publicly.
Interesting. Well, Ted Cruz is a man who has already been topping the list of potential GOP frontrunners in 2016. Will his role in the shutdown hurt him at all in this case?
You know, that's a great question, Wendy, and I have to tell you, this could go either way. Look, I mean, when it comes to the grassroots, they love him. And is he going to be tough in a place like Iowa in that first state? Absolutely. You would have to think he's the front runner in Iowa right now because of all of the grassroots attention that he'll get there and in places like South Carolina. Having said that, the problem here is that Ted Cruz is in the very dangerous position of getting stereotyped by the mainstream media. That's already started to go out there. You know, he's not just the renegade now, he's kind of the wacko bird, so to speak. And we've heard those terms. We've heard some other unseemly terms for Ted Cruz. And so this is the problem because, let's face it, the mainstream media, as much as conservatives love to bash them, they do control the narrative. And so Ted Cruz has to be very careful that he's not already pigeonholed one way.
Very interesting. All right, David, thanks for keeping an eye on us.
Thanks, Wendy.
And don't forget, for more of David's political coverage you won't see anywhere else, make sure you check out his weekly show and blog, The Brody File, and you can find that at CBN.com.
Another financial showdown is looming. Treasury Secretary Jacob Lew says unless lawmakers act in time, he will run out of money to pay the nation's bills by October 17th. Congress must periodically raise the limit on government borrowing to keep U.S. funds flowing. But the fight over the debt ceiling is being tied into battles over the federal budget deficit. Some analysts predict Democrats will accept a short-term spending measure to reopen the government and increase the nation's debt limit while other political differences are worked out.
The New Jersey government is asking a judge to delay implementing an order allowing gay marriage. The state says it is wrong for a lower court judge to reverse policy made by lawmakers, stating, quote, "Never before has any court at any level declared that the validity of a state statute under the state constitution depends on the vicissitudes of a third-party actor with whom the state has no nexus and over whom it has no control." The state government is now seeking to prevent any gay marriages from being performed while the appeal is considered.
Pope Francis is calling proselytism, quote, solemn nonsense. The head of the Catholic Church made that statement in an interview with an atheist Italian journalist. Francis called on the church to love others, not try to convert them. This interview comes just as the Pope is pushing for reform among Catholics. Francis has denounced the Vatican-centric perspective of past administrations. The Pope met with 8 cardinals from around the world to begin talks of reform and wants local church leaders involved as well. For more on this, we turn now to Ashley McGuire. She's a senior fellow at the Catholic Association. Ashley, as we just reported in his latest interview, the Pope called proselytism nonsense. Is that a view held by many in the Catholic Church?
Well, first of all, there's a few competing interpretations of what exactly was going on, one of which was that he was actually being a little glib or tongue-in-cheek with his interviewer, who is a self-professed atheist. So I don't know that one we can take quite literally. There's also different disagreements about whether or not he meant evangelizing or proselytizing. But I think that it's safe to assume that the Pope is in no way rejecting the idea of professing the Christian faith to others.
This Pope is trying to turn away from what many call the Vatican-centric church of the past. What exactly does that mean?
Well, again, I think we have to look at the Pope's background, and he's a Jesuit, and the Jesuit tradition is very missionary focused. So he's coming from a tradition that seeks to bring the faith to the ends of the earth. So I think that's what he's talking about is making sure that the church is doing what it is supposed to be doing, which is making sure that every person has a chance to hear the gospel.
The Catholic Church has seen a lot of controversy in recent years. Is Pope Francis helping or hurting how the world views Catholics, would you say?
Oh, absolutely helping. I think that there isn't anybody who would deny that the Pope is doing really wonderful things for helping to restore a more positive view in the world about Catholics, Catholicism, and the Catholic Church. I think every little thing that he's doing is reminding the world of Christianity's most basic message, which is reaching out to the poor, to the vulnerable, and spreading love, which is sort of the foundational message of the gospel.
Do you think the Pope is caving a little bit on some moral issues or moving the church in the right direction?
I think first of all, when we're hearing some of these sound bites about what the Pope is saying about moral issues, they have to be taken in the context of the interview that he's giving or the homily that he's giving. You know, one of the things that everybody was focused on was a comment that he made in his America Magazine interview about talking too much or talking first about moral issues before sort of loving our neighbor. But then the very next day he went around and gave a very firm admonition to Catholic doctors not to perform abortions. He completely rejected abortion. So I think he's rock solid on the moral issues. I think that he sees, though, that the world maybe doesn't understand a lot of Catholic moral teaching and first needs to experience love and then hear those messages. But he's in no way caving or anything like that on the most important doctrinal issues.
All right, Ashley McGuire of the Catholic Association. Thanks, Ashley, for your time.
Thank you.
And coming up, why Washington is pushing for greater sanctions against Iran despite the country's new diplomatic tone.
Grace, music is unpredictable.
I know I have what it takes.
The Dove Foundation raves. Grace Unplugged is remarkable and inspiring.
This is not about the music. It's about everything else that goes with it.
Dad, were you watching me?
A moving and meaningful film.
This book, his words shook me. It was like my whole world.
That parents and teens should see together, says Focus on the Family.
What are you gonna do? You're gonna drag her back home?
Yeah, I might. I think maybe you're fighting God. Just stop running.
Grace Unplugged, rated PG, starts Friday.
In 2008, my husband Gary departed for heaven. I was still grieving. And then to find out I had cancer, I began praying, God, how do I do this? Where do I do this? Cancer Treatment Centers of America was the place. Dr. Neelam outlined a plan that would take care of my mind and my body, and she prayed with me.
For Bible-believing Christians, we're able to pray with them in a much deeper way as they begin to really rely upon their faith.
At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, we believe in the power of faith and prayer as indispensable allies in the fight against complex and advanced stage cancer.
I'm back in Telluride, on the mountain skiing. I feel strong and healthy.
Advanced medicine and technology.
And I am a survivor.
The warm embrace of the Spirit and the power of prayer.
These are happy tears.
Please go to cancercenter.com/faith. Appointments available now. Cancer Treatment Centers of America. Care that never quits.
Grace, music is unpredictable.
I know I have what it takes.
The Dove Foundation raves. Grace Unplugged is remarkable and inspiring.
This is not about the music. It's about everything else that goes with it.
Dad, were you watching me?
A moving and meaningful film.
This book, his words shook me. It was like my whole world.
That parents and teens should see together, says Focus on the Family.
What are you gonna do? You're gonna drag her back home?
Yeah, I might. I think maybe you're fighting God. Just stop running.
Grace Unplugged, rated PG, starts Friday.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been warning about trusting Iran's efforts to strengthen ties with the West, remarks Iran has condemned.
But a new round of tough sanctions set to take effect against the country's nuclear program could put a strain on diplomatic outreach. Caitlin Burke reports.
Congress is moving forward with tougher U.S. economic sanctions against Iran's nuclear program. In July, the House adopted legislation that increases penalties that went into effect last year. The penalties have cut Iran's petroleum exports in half. These new sanctions come after the first contact between U.S. and Iranian leaders in more than 30 years. But top Israeli officials aren't buying Iran's efforts to improve diplomacy with the West.
We remember what happened with North Korea. They spoke very nicely, but at the end they achieved the bomb. We cannot allow it to happen with Iran as well.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu fought back against Iran's charm offensive at the United Nations Tuesday. He declared a nuclear Iran represented not only an existential threat to Israel, but also a clear and present danger to the United States and Western powers. He argued sanctions must be kept in place and issued a veiled threat of an Israeli military strike.
Ladies and gentlemen, Israel will never acquiesce to nuclear arms in the hands of a rogue regime that repeatedly promises to wipe us off the map. Against such a threat, Israel will have no choice but to defend itself.
A deputy ambassador to Iran's UN mission fired back at Israel, calling Netanyahu's remarks misleading and inflammatory.
I do not want to dignify such unfounded accusation with an answer other than categorically rejecting them all. He tried to mislead this august body about the Iranian nuclear program.
The tough new sanctions against Iran are expected to be finalized in November, giving the White House only a few weeks to see whether Iran has really changed course under President Rouhani. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
The American pastor imprisoned in Iran for his Christian faith now knows that President Obama spoke out on his behalf. Pastor Saeed Abedini was told that the president urged Iranian President Hassan Rouhani to release him. The American Center for Law and Justice reports Pastor Saeed's Iranian family was able to visit with him through a glass partition at Evin Prison this week. And for more information on how you can join the millions speaking out and calling for Pastor Saeed's release, just visit our website, that's cbnnews.com.
Iran has denied a pardon to another imprisoned pastor. CBN News has kept you updated on developments with Pastor Saeed over the last year, but he's just one of many Christians jailed in Iran for their faith. According to Present Truth Ministry, the family of Pastor Benim Irani recently asked an Iranian judge to pardon him, but the judge refused, saying Pastor Irani has to serve the remainder of his 6-year sentence. Irani has already served more than 2 years. The judge said the only way Irani would be released early is if he repents and returns to Islam.
Up next, how something called Proton Therapy could revolutionize the way doctors treat cancer.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
Stop struggling with heavy hoses that are kinked and deliver little or no water, or worse, break. Introducing the incredible Flexible Hose. Turn the water on and it expands up to 3 times its original length, so you can easily guide it anywhere you need without tangling. When you turn the water off, as it drains, the hose retracts back to its original shape. Standard rubber hoses can weigh between 8 and 12 pounds, but a 25-foot flexible hose weighs less than a pound. The Flexible Hose is so compact and lightweight, a child can manage a 75-foot hose easily. The Flexible Hose will never kink and is guaranteed to take the mess out of watering your lawn and plants. So washing your windows or spraying off your gutters has never been easier. The Flexible Hose is made of a tough double wall construction that is designed to bend and stretch but never kink.
Flexible Hose is designed like a fire hose for speed, storage, and strength to last a really long time.
Call or visit FlexibleHose.com to order the incredible Flexible Hose for only $19.95. Call right now and we will include a 7-way adjustable spray nozzle free. You can choose a full action spray, a gentle mist, a powerful jet, a vertical mist, flat spray, a cone spray, or a soaker setting. So stop coiling your hose with bulky devices. Flexible Hose automatically retracts in seconds and weighs less than 1 pound. In fact, a 75-foot hose easily fits in a small bucket and stores away neatly in a drawer. Flexible Hose saves you precious space on boats and is perfectly portable for RVs. But wait, order today and we'll give you a second Flexible Hose system free. Just pay separate processing and handling. That's 2 Flexible Hoses and 2 7-way adjustable spray nozzles, a $40 value, all for only $19.95. This offer is not available in any store. Order now.
To order Flexible Hose and take advantage of this amazing double offer, call 1-800-769-3384 or go to flexiblehose.com. Remember, this offer is not available in stores, so call now.
Well, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and scientists say weight control and physical activity can reduce cases of breast cancer. According to the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center, about 25% of all breast cancer cases actually could be avoided. Between 5 and 10% of all cases are thought to be hereditary, but most cases are not linked to genes. Interesting. 1 in 8 women, or 12%, will develop breast cancer during their lifetimes. So doctors say taking any preventative measures could be a huge benefit. Well, nearly 2 million people will be diagnosed with cancer this year, but now there's a promising new treatment.
Yeah, it's called Proton Therapy. In tonight's Focus Report, Lori Johnson tells us how it could change the way we look at cancer.
Jeff Powell and his wife Vicki believe they dodged not 1, but 2 bullets. First, Jeff beat prostate cancer. Plus, because he chose the treatment known as proton therapy, he avoided the miserable side effects that often accompany traditional methods.
So I had looked at surgery, and I talked to some friends at a local prostate meeting who had it, and they had a lot of trouble with incontinence and sexual malfunction. And at my age, I just didn't want to live like that.
Proton therapy patients have fewer side effects because it only kills the cancer. Traditional radiation therapy works like a bullet, damaging healthy tissue as it enters and exits the body. Proton therapy, on the other hand, is like a firecracker placed inside the tumor. The explosion of radiation damages just the tumor, nothing else. There's no nausea, no burning, and best of all, no organ damage.
Everything that worked when I started my treatment works fine now.
There are only 9 proton therapy centers in all of the United States right now, but another 8 are on the way.
One of the newest treatment facilities is this one in Hampton, Virginia. This location was chosen in part because this area of the country leads the nation in prostate cancer deaths.
I'm halfway through the therapy now, the treatment right now, and it's been a pretty good experience.
45-year-old Craig Fieldings chose proton therapy to treat his prostate cancer. He's come here Monday through Friday for 1 month and has 1 more to go. The cost of proton therapy is about 3 times the cost of traditional treatment, but most insurers, like Craig's, cover the treatment.
It's a painless process. There's really nothing to it. I'm in and out in without 15 minutes, and I can go back to work.
Prostate cancer patients like Craig aren't the only ones who benefit from this breakthrough, according to the center's scientific director, Cynthia Keppel.
We treat a lot of prostate cancer, but we also treat a lot of brain, head and neck. We've treated breast, lung, esophageal. We're looking at pancreatic. We're looking at other kinds of gynecological. It's also important for pediatric patients because kids have a higher probability of getting a tumor from stray radiation associated with more conventional radiation therapy.
The precision also allows the proton beam to conform to the exact shape of the tumor. Some cancers have up to a 40% better cure rate than traditional treatment.
Because we're not generally delivering dose to surrounding tissue, you can raise up the dose to the tumor in some cases. That's where you're going to have a probable higher success rate. So some of the head and neck cancers are very much like that. For other cancers, like our prostate cancer patients, the cure rates are comparable to other treatments, but what we're really trying to do is give them a better quality of life afterwards.
During treatment, the patient lies in a custom-fitted brace on a machine called a gantry. In an adjoining room, technicians activate the proton beam. No needles, no knives.
This is a behind-the-scenes look at the gantry treatment room. The patient is on the other side of that wall. This machine is 3 stories tall, weighs 90 tons, and costs $8 million.
So this is physics.
Oncologist Alan Thornton has been using proton therapy since the early 90s.
This is a resource to the community and to the nation. It builds upon over 50 years of this therapy, first commencing in Sweden in 1957 and Harvard in 1961. There are many, many generations of physicists and physicians that have worked tirelessly to bring this technology to its current fruition.
That work means an answer to prayer for cancer patients who qualify for proton therapy. They can expect to keep more healthy tissue while escaping certain side effects associated with conventional therapy.
Now that it's over, if I had to do that again, hands down, that would be the way I would go.
Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Up next, the national parks might be shut down, but not for a group of World War II veterans. Their story when we come back.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Announcing an important breakthrough in healthcare that can benefit everyone. If you or anyone you love needs affordable health insurance, regardless of a pre-existing medical condition, call Quick Insurance 123 today and get the immediate relief you deserve. Quick Insurance 123 was created to provide affordable health insurance to all uninsured Americans, with or without pre-existing conditions. This is not a discount card. This is a real insurance program that lets you choose from many affordable health plans, with access to doctors, hospitals, emergency services, and more. So call the number on your screen now and get the health coverage you need just for calling. As a special bonus, we'll send you a free prescription savings card that could save you up to 85% on your prescriptions. That's right, you could save up to 85% on your prescriptions just for calling. Call Quick Insurance 123 to find out how you can get affordable health insurance and receive your free prescription savings card just for calling. Don't wait. Getting a free quote is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Call today.
And finally, the government shutdown has closed down national parks, including monuments and memorials.
But that hasn't stopped one special group of World War II veterans. John Murphy and other veterans viewed the memorial from behind a barrier. The groups had traveled from Mississippi and Iowa to tour Washington, D.C., specifically to visit the memorials built in their honor. To the excitement of the crowd, the gates mysteriously opened.
How about that? Look at that crowd. Man, that's beautiful. We feel like it's an honor to come back and see what we fought for.
93, but still going strong, so maybe we'll have him back next year and the year after and the year after. But this one's very special.
To have turned them away would not have been a happy picture, and I think everyone realized that.
I wanted to come ever since they opened it. I love it. I love it. It's an honor to be here.
Wow. No one is admitting to opening the gates, and the Park Service is anxious to open again. Well, I'm glad those gates mysteriously opened.
That was quite a miracle, I think. You know,
definitely.
Good for him. I'm glad they didn't have to break the
yeah,
bars down.
So important. Thanks for watching. Good night.
Good night.